Alrighty, so I have now joined these two together permanently. You can see that I've got these wire hinge pins inserted. They each have got like a little L bend in them, and the little L is just embedded into the balsa and tacked there with some thin CA, so it's not going to come out. And you can see that it folds over completely. There you go. So that's that. The next step is to assemble all the parts inside the fuselage. So like I showed in the last video, I cut out the aft end of my fuselage bottom that gets discarded and replaced it with this FE3 plywood component. So this is what the stab bolts go through these holes and then into the stab to bolt it all to the fuselage. Inside this, we have parts of these components here, which are designed to align the stab. So the idea is that you assemble all this, and that guy is already glued, if I remember right. Yep. So there's another one of these components already inside here. So that's been glued in and held in place there. And so this one goes, you'll have to sand it a little bit, thin it up so that it has a nice friction fit into that notch and pops through. You can see it comes through at the bottom right there. So that's in. And then this one, similarly, you can pre-assemble it outside. So it's like that. And then drop it into the fuselage, and it goes through the slot at the rear as well. So you can see it come out there as well. And those two create a line which hopefully aligns the stab with the center axis of the fuselage, so that it's not misaligned. You can then the plan is then to squeeze these guys, and then at the very end you've got the little end piece which fits into the end of the fuselage. It's also pliant. It's got a little nubbin on it which also aligns with the aft end of the stabilizer. So the stabilizer comes in, it's unfolded, you drop it in so that it slots into, it drops over those parts, and then as you bring it up into folded position or into the correct V orientation, you can see that it grabs onto those plywood, like little sub fins or flukes or however you want to call them, formers, and rests on there, or captures them between the two stab halves. And so now we know that the stab will be aligned with the center axis of the fuselage. So that's that. So these will now get glued, and I'm going to press the fuselage, squeeze it together, hit it with glue. So now the whole assembly is locked into place. Okay, good. And just to be sure, So that is all done. Soaking up some excess. So there you go. So that assembly now is in there, and that locks the stab when, or the V-tail, when you drop the V-tail into position. That whole assembly grabs the V-tail and makes sure that it oops. Make sure that it goes all the way in. Make sure that it is properly aligned. So the next step will be to fit the bolts. Make sure they come through and come through these holes here, and that the whole thing is trammeled. If it's misaligned at all, there may be some fine sanding of these guys, or some, adding a little bit of packing to the sides here to make sure that the V-tail is correctly oriented. But for now, that's pretty much where I'm at with this. So the next video will show, the attachment and and removal of the V-tail with the bolts and all that. Okay, thanks for watching.